religious cult.
Jim Jones led over 900 of his followers into the mass suicide.
One of the biggest mass suicides in recorded history.
I always understood what happened. At some point, it did, on some level, become collective madness.
Welcome to another episode of Fringe
Beyond Limits.
That was great.
Yeah. Much needed for this episode.
Yeah. Last one was heavy.
100%.
Yep.
And this one
Can't wait to see where this one goes.
More like a boulder.
is going to be heavier, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's going to be
So,
suffocating.
Yeah. So if you're joining us, this is part 2 of the Jim Jones Jonestown story. So if you didn't listen to episode 1, go check it out.
yeah. What are you doing listening to part 2 before part 1?
I know some people are psychopaths.
Yeah, people. Crazy.
Stop following in Jim Jones's footsteps.
They're just taking notes.
Stop taking notes.
Only serial killers and cult leaders listen to part 2 before part 1.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
That's true.
I love serial killers.
Me too.
I love cereal.
Ooh, what's your favorite?
I like the granola kinds of cereal.
Okay. So like grape nuts?
Ew. Absolutely not. That's not
I
granola.
don't know. That's the first thing that popped in my head when you said,
No, I don't know. We get it at Costco. I
Oh.
can't think of the name of the brand, but something Harvest. I don't know. But it's like granola clusters.
So like, I can't think of it right now.
Not like honey bunches of
Yeah,
oats.
that's what it
They
is.
have flakes in those, and
Oh.
I'm not a flaky person.
Oh, I mean, well, you sure about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right. What's your favorite cereal?
Ooh, the berry Cheerios.
Berry Cheerios.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I feel serial killers eat Cheerios, period. That and like Life cereal and grape nuts.
I was also told serial killers like licorice. I like licorice.
I do like licorice.
Like
Black licorice.
Oh,
So-
black licorice? No.
yeah, like the
no.
anise.
Oh, I got it. Next time
no.
I see you, some customers from like Germany and stuff, they brought me Dutch candy, all licorice.
I will
I'll bring it
enjoy the shit out of that.
because I'm the only one in my company that likes it. So I have so many. I'll
That's
bring
how
it.
you know
sure.
when you're an adult. You like licorice.
I don't think that's the case at all.
You're Italian. I feel like half of the Italian desserts have some sort of anise flavor to it.
No.
Oh, you prefer the anise
Yes.
flavoring?
Yeah. An ass. I want an ass flavoring.
You are an ass.
100%. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Oh, what's your favorite cereal?
I love Frosted Mini Wheats.
Those get soggy too easily.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Mush.
No,
That's
it's
why
good.
I
when
eat
it gets
the
soggy.
The granola kind, because I
that's
hate when
why
cereal
I'm
gets
all- I know,
smushy.
but that's also why I'm not a good gay guy. I like the mush in my mouth. I don't like hard things.
You might as well just eat oatmeal.
Yeah, I like oatmeal.
I know.
Or cream of wheat.
Bull.
Yeah.
My dad used to eat
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Just put some
Farina.
brown sugar on there, some raisins. Real good.
No, you are crazy.
You cray cray.
You guys are all crazy. I'm the only normal person in this group here.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I really, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You sure about that?
100%.
100%. That's the first time you ever said
That was
100.
My emphasis on the right syllable. Okay.
I wish you would speak like Brianna some more.
Okay. That was from a movie, wasn't it?
I think so.
Put the right emphasis on the right syllable.
I think so.
Can't tell you what movie that's from.
No, me neither.
Mm.
But I
Think
need,
on that. I'll noodle on that.
yeah.
I'll Google on that.
Yeah. Do
Do you know how to spell any of those words?
Do a Google. Really? You can't even pronounce those words.
Nope. That's why I asked if she could spell them because I don't even know what those words were.
Ah, jeez. So, all right. Well, things that keep you up at night. Who wants to go first?
I do, because I want to mess with you guys.
All right. I like it.
Okay. I want you all to take a deep sniff with your nose. You all just ate boogers. Anytime you take a deep sniff,
Mm-hmm.
you swallow boogers.
Okie doke.
All right. Yeah. I love eating boogers.
It kind of made me a little dizzy doing that too.
What? Oxygen makes you dizzy?
I was just going to say breathing oxygen.
What the fuck is happening to you?
A lot of things.
Oh, I
I
think.
don't know.
Oh my god!
I don't know if I did it too much or what. It's just like,
Or like
I'd have to see.
you've never done it before in your life. Like
Probably.
this is my first deep breath ever.
I just OD'd on oxygen. Burgers.
You know, if she keeps doing that, she's gonna do a cum.
Do it come.
I mean,
Well, at least these chairs have armrests, so she won't fall out when she passes it.
exactly. This is true. This is true.
Sorry, just got to get another shout out in for these sweet chairs.
Yeah, no,
Thanks,
of
Miss.
course. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Missy.
Yeah, it was my birthday
Yeah,
that did it.
you should have a birthday every day.
Yeah, I
Every day.
agree. I agree.
We get gifts too.
I'll be in my birthday suit every day.
Oh God. Okay, we're taking this show to the road on
Yeah, we
remote.
are. Yeah.
Please remote. Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right. Was that it? Just taking a,
I mean, think about it. Like
you know,
thinking about the fact that you eat boogers every day, but we say don't pick your nose and eat it, but everybody eats boogers.
yeah, that's true.
Interesting.
Gross.
Yeah, I never blow my nose. I always just,
Ew.
yeah,
Ew.
yeah. So,
So yeah, it's gross.
yeah, that's why I have such a good immune system.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I just eat. Not only
Just
my,
inhaling mites.
yeah, just
dust mites.
not just mine. I'll eat other people's burgers too.
Okay, this is
Yeah.
just going south.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I'll put my mouth around their nose and just start, you know,
Just so gross.
Like one of those baby nose sucker
yeah,
things.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, thinking about that actually does make me nauseous. Like it really does. All right. What,
And now that we've lost half of our listeners
yeah.
today.
Yeah. But if you're driving and puking at the same time, you're welcome. So we'll see you next week. Bree, what's yours?
If a person with multiple personality disorder threatens suicide, other hostages.
No.
But what about the other personalities?
That's all they are, personalities, and they're
But-
not real people.
But what
Not
if one-
according to Nefarious. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, she got you.
No, no, because that's in a different world and universe altogether. That's the nefarious universe. We're in our universe.
But how do you
So
know
you're saying
whatever
it's not real?
personality is the real personality of that person that's actually doing it? So
I
what if
don't.
it's another personality and it's holding the other hostages?
I don't, but perception is reality. So whichever personality I'm perceiving is the reality.
So which personality do you put on like safety watch?
I have a question. Which personality am I talking to between the two of you?
For me to know and you never to find out.
That's true.
I was thinking of something funny to say, but
Yeah,
I didn't want to blow out the speakers.
Yeah, keep thinking.
Cricket. Whatever.
Okay. Is that all you guys got? I mean, these
Yeah,
are,
that's all I got.
All right. Well, that's fantastic.
Tell me about yours, booger eater.
Yeah. I've always wondered, especially with all the weird shit that's been going on for the past decade, I'd say, are we living in a Truman Show?
Oh yeah.
And all just the crazy shit, the writers are just bored. And
Right.
just,
You know when a series is like run its course.
yeah. And it's like,
They're just throwing shit at the wall to see what
yeah,
sticks.
yeah.
Yeah, it really feels like that.
Right? Like I think about that all the time. Are we just living in a fucking Truman Show and the writers have finally gotten bored and are just really fucking with us?
Yeah.
Which is AKA the Matrix, I guess. You can also,
Yeah.
use that. But like the Matrix just means we're in a simulation. I'm just saying we're in a fucking TV show that aliens are watching.
Yeah.
Right?
I believe it.
Yeah.
I've actually had conversations with other friends who maybe might be reluctant to ask that of people, but yeah, I agree with them. I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to know where the cameras are.
Yeah, me too. Because I would like to not show my.
Moon the camera.
No, I don't. I just don't. I'm very shy when it comes to nudity, and I would like not to be nude on someone's TV. I really hope they.
So like,
they
how
blur
many
me out.
different channels would there be? Is there one per person,
Probably.
or is everyone else just like a non-player character
That could be true too.
or actor or something?
Or it's just the blown up version of the Hunger Games,
Oh yeah, for sure.
right? I mean, like, well,
I feel like all these movies
Like-
have an edge of truth to them.
yeah. I mean, like, because all we're doing is just trying to survive, right? I mean, that's what against other people.
Yeah, and everyone has some skill or another.
Yeah. So, Yeah, we're just live action Hunger Games, Truman Show. Life.
Nice. So, reality TV, that's not really reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's scripted, right?
Right.
How much of us might actually be scripted then?
Ooh,
Like
good
how
question.
much of us are in the know? Is that what you're asking?
And yeah, and how many of us have just been coded to
To just react.
do X, Y, or Z?
Right.
And that takes away freedom of choice.
Mm-hmm. Or what if it's just, we do have freedom of choice and just people are inserted in our lives to kind of guide us towards a certain path or not.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jim Jones's mom.
Me?
Yes.
Me plus an A?
Me. Yeah.
Me plus an
Lynette plus an A.
Lynette.
Lynette.
A plus Lynette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my blood type.
Is it?
Yeah.
You're an A positive?
Yeah. My mom told me it's the only A plus I'd ever see in my entire life.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm surprised you're not a cult leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Right.
sister's B positive, and my mom said that's also a sign that she needs to be more positive. It's like dad jokes on a whole nother level.
What does it mean that I'm O negative?
I can't riff over that.
I'm
So
the
you should ask your mom and
I'm
get
the
that for him.
universal donor.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But you're not a universal recipient.
Yes. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No, I am.
You give to everybody, but you can't.
you
get
only can
from-
have O for you. You can't.
Okay. Okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas
Okay.
O positive, are they
That's-
the universal receiver?
That's one of the main
Mm.
reasons why they
The
want
universal
Giver.
incubus and
A
succubus.
I'm the what? The universal incubus?
Yeah.
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 You-
Hot damn.
Yeah.
I love these like full circle
I
conversations.
know,
Look
right?
at that.
You know, I can give you guys my blood, no problem. And the D. I can 2 birds, 1 stone. What do you guys think?
No,
Well, if I'm your cult leader,
but you're not.
so
I
today,
haven't signed any paperwork.
I was sweeping and washing the floors. Little story time.
Cinderella.
And I found just an egg. I showed you guys a picture.
Oh, yeah.
An egg on my front doorstep. Don't know who put it there. It's just really weird.
It wasn't correct. It was just
Yeah.
sitting
Regular
Yeah,
white
yeah.
egg.
Yeah. So
chicken
Carrie
egg. Yeah.
sent me. So I put it on Facebook. I'm like, hey, does anybody know what the fuck this means? Because I think I'm being cursed. So Carrie, Missy's and Bree's sister, sent me a screenshot. And it says, what does an egg on your doorstep mean?
There's a Google for that?
There's a Google. She did a Google and sent
Wow.
me a picture of the Google.
Okay. You can Google
The
anything.
single egg symbolizes fertility and a new beginning. Finding a single egg on your doorstep means you've been chosen to be their new leader.
No.
That's creepy.
You just added the leader on the end right there.
No, I'll show you.
Who's new leader?
I don't know. It doesn't, it's not a link. It's just a screenshot.
Are you going to be the next president?
No.
He's going to be the next cult leader.
Yeah. And it's amazing that this
The
happened
Easter Bunny
as
leader.
we're doing Jim Jones's
That's
episode.
really fucked up, man.
Isn't that crazy?
Leader of what?
I don't know. Maybe it's just your leader.
Leader of the pack. Boom.
Vroom,
vroom.
It's such a great song. We were just showing our age, So
That was my parents' song.
I know. I know.
That was all of our parents.
Yeah.
Not mine. Mine were in a different country.
Crusty. Old crusty.
Old crusty.
Well, what'd you do with the egg?
So my neighbor.
I mean, you like omelets.
Yeah, right. No, my neighbor. that. So I talked it over with my aunt. My aunt's like, listen, if it's like a curse thing, it's meant for either you or Missy. You guys can't touch it. So I had my neighbor who so happened to be cutting.
Wait, you like physically can't touch it?
Right, right.
Like what if it shovel? Like, or you just
No.
can't get near it?
Like touch it. So I didn't touch it. I didn't get rid of it. My neighbor who was cutting our grass this morning, he cuts our grass and my other 2 sides of the neighbor. I showed him. He's like, that's weird. I go, yeah. So I go, why don't you pick it up and throw it off my property? And so I went to go grocery shopping and I came back and it was gone. So he
So you
got,
cursed him.
no, because it was meant, if it's meant for me, anybody else can touch it. So
I think you got to put like salt over your threshold or something.
yeah, I think semen. I think
Dance
semen,
around naked in front of your porch
semen
or
of a
something.
righteous
That's like-
man.
People would run away if his semen was out there.
Yeah, I need semen of a righteous man. Do you guys know any?
No.
Nope.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to.
What's the definition of righteous really these days?
I don't know, but I'm going to have to do a Google to find a righteous man.
Never
Yeah,
killed
Google.
a bug.
Maybe on like monster.com or Indeed.
Yeah, possibly.
Ladders.
ZipRecruiter.
Yeah. Who? I need a hand job.
You can try
Yeah, no.
Tinder.
No. Tinder?
Yeah.
Or Bumble?
Bumble, yeah.
Yeah, which one's the one for gays?
Grindr.
Is it Grindr?
Yeah.
I knew you would
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
You're not on it?
I mean, like not.
I've seen you, sassy
know.
chapsy.
Dude, I do wear my assless chaps on there.
See, I know your handle.
Yeah, well, dude.
That's so creepy.
That is not what I meant.
All right, so continuation of Mr. Jim Jones. So we left off with what? He was what? Doing all kinds of weird stuff, right?
And he went to California.
He went to California. So by the early 1970s, Jim Jones's grip on the People's Temple was at its all-time peak. But so too was the scrutiny from outsiders. Stories of abuse, manipulation, and coercive practices were starting to surface from defectors and investigative journalists. As his paranoia intensified, Jones believed that the only way to protect the church and his vision was to relocate somewhere beyond the reach of American authorities and influence. He chose Guyana, a small country in South America known for its socialist government and relative isolation. In 1974, Jones secured a lease on a large tract of land deep in the jungle. This remote settlement would become Jonestown, a self-sufficient agricultural commune where Jones promised that members would live out the temple's ideals of equality, community, and shared purpose. For many members, the vision of Jonestown was irresistible, a fresh start, free from racism, inequality, and corruption they faced in the United States. Jones painted Jonestown as a utopian project, a haven where everyone would contribute to the collective good and live in harmony. The promise of building a new world resonated with members who had devoted their lives to the temple's mission. Families sold their homes, left their jobs, and said goodbye to relatives, convinced they were heading to a paradise that would fulfill promises Jones made for years. Lillian James, who moved to Jonestown with her husband and 2 children, recalled, "Jim said this was our promised land, and we believed him. The first few months were hard work, but there was a sense of hope in the air. We were building something that mattered." The reality of life in Jonestown was far from the idyllic vision Jones promised. The settlement was located in dense mosquito-infested jungle with high humidity and oppressive heat that quickly wore down new arrivals. The land itself was not well suited for large-scale agriculture, making food production difficult. Nonetheless, the members toiled from sunrise to sunset, clearing land, constructing buildings, and planting crops. The work was grueling, and many of the settlers had little to no experience in farming or construction. Supplies were limited, and the harsh conditions took a toll on the health and morale of the community. Yet James framed these challenges as tests of their faith and commitment. He positioned himself as the unwavering leader who could guide them through the difficulties, reinforcing his indispensability to the mission. First-hand account of daily life. We woke up at dawn to the sound of Jim's voice over the loudspeakers telling us to rise and work for the good of our brothers and sisters, said survivor Tom Bogue. The days were long and the heat was unbearable, but we told ourselves this was the price of freedom. The living conditions were Spartan. Families were often crammed into small wooden huts with few amenities. Basic needs like fresh water and medical supplies were scarce. Despite these challenges, Jones maintained that they were better off than they would be in the United States, where he claimed they would face persecution and betrayal. This narrative was crucial in maintaining the loyalty of his followers, who began to see the hardships as necessary sacrifices for the good. As Jonestown grew, so did the demands on Jim Jones's physical and mental health. By this time, he had developed a dependence on a variety of drugs, including amphetamines to keep him alert and barbiturates to help him rest. The combination had devastating effects on his stability. He became more erratic and paranoid, prone to sudden mood swings, and left followers in constant fear of his outbursts. His speeches, once filled with hope and vision, began to center more on the themes of betrayal, enemies lurking in the shadows, and the ultimate need for loyalty. These sermons were broadcast throughout the compound via loudspeakers, a constant reminder of his presence and control. Former nurse Annie Moore, who worked in the makeshift medical clinic at Jonestown, described Jones's deteriorating state. He was always sweating, jittery, and his eyes looked hollow. Sometimes he'd stay up for days, ranting about plots against us and accusing people of betrayal. It was terrifying to see him like that. Jones's paranoia reached new heights in Jonestown. He believed that defectors and outside forces were plotting against him and that the U.S. government was planning to destroy the temple. To reinforce this narrative, Jones staged nightly meetings where he would lecture for hours about the dangers they faced. These meetings, often mandatory, lasted into the early hours of the morning, leaving the community exhausted and emotionally drained. The most chilling expression of Jones's paranoia in the form of white nights, emergency drills designed to test the loyalty of his followers and prepare them for the ultimate act of devotion, mass suicide. During these events, Jones would announce that enemies were closing in and that their only escape was death. He would distribute cups of liquid that he claimed were poisoned, ordering everyone to drink as a test of their willingness to die for the cause. Although the liquid was not actually poisoned during these drills, the psychological impact was profound. Members learned to accept that their lives were not their own. They belonged to Jones and the temple. The White Knights instilled a deep sense of inevitability about their fate, reinforcing the idea that death was preferable to capture or betrayal. Deborah Layton, who later escaped Jonestown, described the terror of these drills in her affidavit. We sat there holding hands, waiting for the end. Children cried and adults trembled. But Jim just stood there, watching us, making sure we would do as he asked. Even when he said it was just a test, the relief was mixed with the realization that he could make us do it for real at any time. The White Knights served a dual purpose. They reinforced Jones's control and tested the community's loyalty. But they also normalized the idea of collective death. Over time, the notion that they might die together become embedded in the fabric of life in Jonestown. The conditioning would prove devastating when Jones called for the real White Knight in 1978.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yes, there is.
I don't know. I'm kind of even still stuck that people are just willing to move to a whole nother country, third world. Like I know that was the section above,
build everything
but like,
from the bottom up.
So he sent people when he first acquired the land, he sent people there with Mr. Muggs to start clearing out the land. So
it was illegal to own a monkey in California anyway.
It's California. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of political power and clout there. So he sent people there to start the groundwork of clearing. And then from reading it, they had only room for like 400 or 500 people. But when they
sounds big.
Yeah. But when they got there, they had a little over 900 people, men, women, and children that moved there. So the reason the living quarters were so brutal was because they were so overcrowded, almost, 2 to 1.
Yeah.
So that put a lot of strain on living conditions. There's just way too many people for what they initially planned for.
I'm just shocked that many people came over. Like, how many of those people didn't even have a passport? How did they even get over?
Oh no, they had passports.
All 900?
Yeah, you had to have had a passport. Yeah, that's the only way to get out of the country.
Well, yeah, I know, but
yeah,
this is crazy that.
Yeah. Oh, agreed.
Coincidentally, 900 people had passports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people have passports.
Not everyone.
I said a lot. I didn't say everyone.
That's why the mind, like, it baffles me because it's like 900. At least some of those people shouldn't have it. But
well, they probably planned and got it for the trip. It's not like all right, who has passports? Let's go. They probably went through all the steps of getting it. So one of Jones's most effective strategies for maintaining power was the isolation of Jonestown itself. The compound was surrounded by dense jungle, and the nearest town was miles away, making escape difficult. Armed guards, loyal to Jones and often selected from among the most fervent members, patrolled the perimeter. These guards were known as the Red Brigade and were tasked with preventing defections and enforcing Jones's rules. Communication with the outside world was heavily controlled. Letters sent by members were often edited or censored, ensuring that no negative information leaked out. Jones frequently intercepted mail and dictated what could be sent. In return, he read letters aloud during meetings to reinforce the idea that family members who expressed concern were trying to sabotage their mission. We were told that our families had been brainwashed by American propaganda and that they didn't understand what we were doing, said survivor Vernon Gosney. It created a sense of us versus them, and even if you doubted, you didn't dare show it. Spies were everywhere. Members who stepped out of line faced severe consequences. Punishments included being placed in the punishment box, a small dark enclosure where individuals would be left for hours or even days. Other punishments included forced labor and public humiliation, often during the daily meetings where Jones would expose their crimes and berate them in front of the community. The threat of these punishments kept most people compliant and fearful of crossing Jones. In one notable instance, a young man named David was caught trying to sneak food from the communal kitchen. Rather than handling the situation quietly, Jones made him stand before the entire assembly and confess his crime. He then ordered the boy to perform hard labor under the scorching sun as a lesson to others about the consequences of selfishness. This spectacle reinforced the idea that every action was subject to Jones's approval and judgment. So here I want to play a recording. So during this is one of his meetings, and there are people from the congregation getting up and saying what they would do to their family members if their family members were there, because, you know, they got brainwashed into thinking that they were trying to, you know, impose them and talking shit about them. So it was an us versus them mentality, like we said. So this is just one of the recordings, and you can hear Jones just laughing like a fucking lunatic. And it's so creepy. So let me start that.
Yeah, but we're not sure about that shooting the airplane. That I feel that since my brother and sister, so-called brother and sister, put you through all this trouble, I feel that you should let my brother stay in jail, let him rot. I feel that you should save my sister from being stabbed and bleeding to death. I feel that my sister should have, when the pigs came and finna take her to jail, it was you that she called on. And even though she called on you and she putting you through all this trouble right now, I feel that the bitch should be got and shot someone. I don't care. I feel that the bitch should be got. Both of them should be got and dragged by a car.
That's a new idea. I feel I had so much down in me here. I mean, you ought to have it. By God, it's time some of us got to feeling it. How much shit can you take and try to reason with people and reason and show mercy with them and even offer to bring them and entertain them and they still do crap?
I'd like to kill my so-called brother and Phil Aarons for the crap that both of them have caused over these years since they've left.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Your dad was up on the steps.
Dad, I'd personally like to grab my father and string him up by his nuts and have a hot poker, sticking it in some coals and sticking it up his ass and burning the hell out of him for doing the things he's doing, because he knows that you saved my sister's life and he knows all the good things you did for us both. And he knew that we wanted to come over here and live peacefully, and this is why he's causing all this hell. And I'd like to personally do those things to him just to get him to realize that he's...
I'm sure when you have him tied up by his balls and a hot poker goes up his ass, he would realize something. It's too much, these people.
Just to get him to realize that he's trying to ruin our freedom and trying to take away my daughter's freedom. And I like to say she's dead.
Thank you. He realized something, I'd say.
What I like to do to my so-called mom, the bitch, she hates purse snatchers. I would like to disguise myself and beat the bitch up and drag her ass. Drag her ass. All right. I'll beat the bitch up. I swear, and then I blow the motherfucking ass right up her. I like to do that myself.
Take your tumble.
We told him when she started shit, we were trying to make, be nice and win people. We said, write a nice letter. The fucking letter. It was a goddamn letter. Had to rewrite it 4 times to get it to be nice. You fucking bitch, you don't mess with me, I'll kill you. His mother.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That laugh.
Yeah.
And like the situations that these people come up with, and he just like laughs at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it almost sounded like they were trying to impress him. Like, I'm going to one-up him. Like, one-up him, and I'm going to...
Every story was worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And what they want to do to whoever it is that they're related
family
to.
member. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Mother, father, sister, brother.
Yeah.
Like, your closest family members.
Yeah, and like, he's just like enjoying that they're saying this.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knows that he's gotten them under his spell.
Yeah, that laugh almost sounds like, look what I, like he's proud. Like, look what I created.
Yeah.
I own them.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like they think they're brainwashed, but they're actually, I brainwashed them.
Listen, listening to some of those recordings, I mean, there's hours, thousands of hours.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. So, yeah.
Do you think he was high?
Oh, yeah.
Had to be on something.
I mean, he was, with all
the cackle just felt like he was on some sort of, like you said, amphetamine or something.
I mean, it was a mixture of drugs and him just losing his fucking mind.
Jeez.
I mean, his mind was gone by that point. So, all right. So even in Jonestown, Mr. Muggs, Jones' pet chimpanzee, remained a prominent figure.
Mr. Muggs.
Mr. Muggs. Jones would bring Mr. Muggs to meetings where the chimp would sit by his side as if serving as an extension of Jones's authority to the members of the temple. Mr. Muggs represented innocence and loyalty, qualities that Jones praised in his followers. However, the presence of the chimp also served as a subtle reminder of Jones's dominion over all living things within Jonestown. Mr. Muggs' presence reinforced the perception that Jones was more than a leader. He was a figure who could command even the natural world. The subtle reinforcement of power played into the mystique Jones cultivated around himself, further solidifying the almost godlike control he had over his followers. Janice Martin, who worked in the communal kitchen, remembered when Jim would talk about loyalty, he'd pet Mr. Muggs and say, "Even animals understand devotion. Do you? It made you feel ashamed if you were ever doubted. If a chimp could be loyal, why couldn't you?" As life in Jonestown continued, the initial sense of purpose began to erode under the weight of exhaustion, isolation, and fear. Food shortages became severe, leading to malnutrition among residents. The long working hours and harsh living conditions weakened both body and spirit, yet few dared to voice their concerns, as doing so would result in swift retribution. For Jones, every problem became evidence of external enemies trying to undermine their paradise. His paranoia became so extreme that he spoke frequently of mass suicide as a form of revolutionary defiance. As conditions worsened, some members attempted to escape or expressed their desire to leave. These individuals were labeled traitors, and their actions were useful to fuel Jones' rhetoric about loyalty and betrayal. The threat of defection terrified Jones, who believed that even a single person leaving could spark the downfall of the entire community. One night, we heard that someone had tried to flee into the jungle, recalled Tim Carter, a former temple member. The next morning, Jim gathered everyone and talked about what happened, warning that traitors would be dealt with severely. It was clear that trying to leave wasn't an option for most of us. We were trapped. As 1978 progressed, Jones' health continued to deteriorate, and his drug use became more apparent. He was often seen slumped in his chair, rambling incoherently about conspiracies and enemies. Yet even in his weakened state, his control over the community remained absolute. He instructed members to practice mass suicide drills more frequently, reinforcing that their fate was inextricably linked to his. The outside world was not entirely unaware of what was happening in Jonestown. Families of temple members, concerned by the lack of communication and the disturbing stories emerging from defectors, pressured the U.S. government to take action. This pressure culminated in a visit from Congressman Leo Ryan in November 1978, who decided to see Jonestown for himself. His arrival set the stage for the tragic climax of Jones's decades-long pursuit of power. Jones knew that Ryan's visit was a potential threat to his control. He ordered the community to present Jonestown as a happy, thriving settlement. Members were coached on what to say, and anyone deemed a potential liability was kept out of sight. The visit initially appeared successful, with members putting on a convincing show of contentment. However, it wasn't long before some individuals passed notes to Ryan's delegation, begging for help to escape. The facade cracked and the atmosphere grew tense. Jones's paranoia surged, setting the stage for what would become one of the most devastating events in modern history. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I still love Mr. Muggs.
Mr. Muggs, he's the hero of the story.
He is. By 1978, the aura of hope that had drawn so many to Jonestown had all but evaporated. The daily reality for the nearly 1,000 residents was grueling. Food shortages, disease, backbreaking labor, and a pervasive atmosphere of fear. Jim Jones's health had deteriorated drastically. His dependency on drugs rendered him gaunt and erratic, his speeches increasingly filled with paranoia and warnings of impending betrayal. He often slurred his words or repeated himself, but even in this diminished state, his hold over the people remained ironclad. The combination of exhaustion, isolation, and relentless conditioning left members too afraid or disoriented to resist. Back in the United States, families of Jonestown residents had grown deeply concerned. Letters were infrequent and often heavily censored, filled with robotic reassurances of happiness that did not match the tone of personal correspondence they once knew. Defectors who managed to return to the U.S. shared stories that painted a chilling picture of life in the jungle. Public humiliations, harsh punishments, and Jones' threats of mass suicide. If the temple faced serious external threat, these revelations sparked media coverage and pressured the U.S. government to take action. "We knew something was wrong when the letters became so generic," said Lynn Jacobs, whose sister was in Jonestown. "Everything was about how happy and safe she was, but it didn't sound like her at all. It was like someone had told her what to write."
Like, can you imagine what these family members not in Jonestown with their loved one, like?
Yeah.
I would go ballistic not knowing exactly what's going on. Like, what, like that lady was saying, the letters were so generic. You know that there's something going on if it's that generic. Like, your family member.
Right, and she's thousands of miles away, or your family member in the middle of a jungle. You can't get to them and help them.
Right.
Yeah, you're like, this is not how they
helpless.
usually write. Like, there's something obviously going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you do?
Right.
And then maybe even also the embarrassment, like, do I tell anybody my sister or my family member, brother, mom, whatever cousin is involved in this?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's
who do you go to?
So many layers.
Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Congressman Leo Ryan of California, known for his willingness to personally investigate controversial situations, was deeply troubled by the stories coming out of Jonestown. His constituents included many of the family members who were advocating for action. Determined to see the situation firsthand, Ryan organized a delegation that included journalists, relatives of Jonestown residents, and aides. The group's objective was to assess the living conditions, speak with residents, and determine whether the U.S. government needed to intervene. News of Ryan's impending visit reached Jonestown weeks in advance. Jonestown interpreted this as both a threat and an opportunity. He saw Ryan's arrival as the culmination of the conspiracies he had been warned about for years, proof that the U.S. government and outside forces sought to dismantle his utopian dream. Jones gathered the planning commission and devised a strategy to handle the visit. Members were instructed to present Jonestown as a thriving, happy community. They rehearsed conversations and responses, and those who were known to be critical of the settlement were kept under surveillance or coerced into compliance. Laura Johnston Cole, a survivor who was part of the Jonestown community, later described the tense days leading up to Ryan's arrival. "We practiced smiling, practiced saying how much we loved it there. Jim said if we didn't convince them, it would mean the end for all of us. We knew he was watching, and we were terrified of what would happen if we failed." November 17, 1978. Congressman Ryan and his delegation arrived in Guyana and made their way to Jonestown. Jones greeted them with a forced smile, exuding a blend of charm and anxiety. He arranged a welcoming party complete with songs performed by temple members, showcasing a sense of joy and community. To the casual observer, Jonestown seemed like the inclusive, thriving commune it was meant to be. At first, everything seemed rehearsed but peaceful, remembered Tim Reiterman, a journalist who accompanied Ryan. People were singing, smiling, and some even came up to thank Congressman Ryan for visiting. But beneath that, you can sense something was wrong. The smiles were too tight, the laughter was too forced. Despite Jones's careful orchestration, it didn't take long for the facade to crumble. During their stay, members of the delegation received secret notes slipped to them by residents desperate to leave. One note was handed to NBC correspondent Don Harris, reading simply, "Please help us get out of Jonestown." The delegation began to realize that the outward displays of happiness masked a deep fear. Jones became aware of these notes and the anxiety among his followers. The warm facade he had maintained began to give way to visible agitation. The more residents expressed a desire to leave, the more he saw betrayal and the vindication of his worst fears. He summoned a meeting with his inner circle late at night, speaking feverishly about traitors and the end of their movement. Members of the Planning Commission nodded in agreement, but fear lined their faces. "We could feel the energy shift," said former Temple member Stephen Jones, Jim's son, who was not present during the final days, but heard accounts from others. People started whispering, and Jim's voice over the loudspeaker was more frantic, talking about loyalty, betrayal, and revolutionary suicide. So let me stop there. What the fuck does revolutionary suicide mean? Like
what is the end goal? Like, what are you trying to change?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, what's the point of...
Like, you're blaming, like, you're trying to start a movement by killing yourself, right?
Essentially.
You're revolting by killing yourself.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. I agree.
Yeah, because, like, who's going to continue on after with your revolutionary...
You're a ghost? I don't know.
What are you trying to prove?
I mean...
I just don't get it.
No, it makes zero sense. So, on November 18th, as Ryan and his delegation prepared to depart, about 15 residents approached him, asking to leave with the group. This move shattered any remaining illusion of unanimous loyalty. Jones, who watched from a distance, sent temple guards to monitor the scene. His face was a mask of controlled fury as he realized that people he considered devout followers were turning against him. Ryan assured Jones that those who wished to leave could do so voluntarily, but Jones's behavior shifted from hospitality to barely concealed hostility. "If they want to leave, let them leave," he said, in a tone that seemed more like a threat than permission. The departing group, including Congressman Ryan, journalists, and defectors, made their way to the airstrip at Port Kaituma, several miles from Jonestown. The air was thick with tension as they waited for their planes. Suddenly, a tractor with a trailer carrying armed temple guards approached. Without warning, the guards opened fire on the group. Congressman Ryan, along with 4 others, including journalists and defectors, were killed. Several others were wounded but survived by playing dead or fleeing into the jungle. Jackie Spear, then Ryan's aide, and a survivor of the attack, later recounted, "We saw the tractor coming, but we didn't know what was about to happen until they started shooting. It was chaos, people running, falling, screaming. I remember hitting the ground and feeling the hot sting of a bullet. I thought I was going to die there."
It's crazy to think, being in this congressman's spot, like, you go in there just to kind of observe the area, not knowing that you're going to rescue these people and then getting shot and killed in the process.
Right.
Like, you didn't even think this was going to be a rescue mission. You were just going there, and then it ends up being one, and
Yeah. I mean, the decision to do this, I don't understand. I mean, I get it. He was fucking nuts, right? He was paranoid, and he was under the influence of drugs and stress and whatever, and he created his own paranoia. But I just don't understand how he thought that, or anyone within his inner circle thought this was a good idea. So back in Jonestown, word of the attack at the airstrip quickly reached Jones. Whether by messenger or through radio communication, the news confirmed his worst fears. The outside world was closing in. He convened the entire community at the pavilion, the central gathering place in Jonestown. Loudspeakers broadcast his voice through the settlement, summoning everyone for an emergency meeting. Children, parents, the elderly, everyone made their way to the pavilion. Some confused, others already resigned to what was about to happen. Jones's voice, recorded on what would later be known as the death tape, was filled with both urgency and exhaustion. He told his followers that the time had come to make a stand, that they would not be taken by their enemies. If we can't live in peace, he declared, then let's die in peace. His words, once so full of hope and purpose, now urged his people toward a collective end. A mixture of cyanide and tranquilizers, blended into Flavor Aid, was prepared and distributed. Parents, what?
I was supposed to say, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Not Kool-Aid.
Maybe that's Mandela effect.
You know what? No, it's not. Unfortunately, it was always Flavor Aid. Yeah, but here's the thing.
But the memory that everyone thought it was don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Well, yeah, because everyone thought it was Kool-Aid. I mean, I think Kool-Aid is just a generic term.
Well, it was probably...
It's both a brand and a generic term, you know?
Probably colored, and people heard aid, so they put Kool-Aid instead.
But, I mean, like, if you're going to do this, I mean, spring for the good stuff at least, right?
Well, they didn't have enough food. They probably didn't have enough money. I probably drank some. I can't talk.
That's what I gave you guys earlier.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. That's why I BYO my.
Yeah. Words are hard.
What did you do to me?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. So parents were instructed to give the concoction to their children first. A directive that turned the air into a symphony of cries, sobs, and whispers of comfort. Some mothers hesitated, but the presence of armed guards and Jones's insistent voice left them no choice. The children were the first to die. Their bodies convulsing as the poison took effect. The sight broke the spirit of many adults who then drank willingly, either out of despair or the belief that they were sparing themselves a worse fate. Odell Rhodes, one of the few who survived, recounted the scene. It was hell. People were lying on the ground, shaking and foaming at the mouth. Jones was pacing, shouting that this was the only way. I remember slipping away, hiding under a building, trying to block out the sounds around me. As bodies fell around him, Jones did not drink the poison himself. Instead, he was found dead from a gunshot wound to the head.
Coward.
Fact.
Mm-hmm.
Believed to be self-inflicted or carried out by a loyal follower at his command. Nearby, the lifeless body of not Mr. Muggs!
No!
Ugh.
Don't kill the animal.
Mr. Muggs' pet chimpanzee lay as well, symbolizing the complete collapse of the world Jones had built and controlled.
What a bastard. Whoever killed him. I hope they go to hell.
So, how does someone just buy that much cyanide and tranquilizers and it doesn't flag anyone's attention?
This was 1970s.
Yeah, but like...
There was...
I mean, I don't know how much cyanide it takes to kill someone, but I mean, you have 1,000 people here, so it's not like a teaspoon.
Right.
So how that...
I mean, there was no regulations on this stuff back then.
If it was something that he's been like planning for who knows how long, he probably was like every year or every month he was like getting it and just stocking it up.
No, I don't even think it was that. I just think there was no tamper-proof
right
on like medicine until the Tylenol stuff happened.
That was like 90s.
80s.
Oh.
Yeah. It was early to mid 80s, like 83, 84 maybe. I was alive. They tried. They missed.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was no regulations on any of this stuff back then. You know, I mean, you could buy...
But like even like a good Samaritan, a good citizen was like, hey, somebody's buying a truckload of cyanide and tranquilizers. That seems kind of weird.
So here's the thing, is you're in Guyana. There's no regulations there, especially in the 70s. It's a third world country.
I get it.
You know, I'm not saying that they're bad people, but I'm just saying that there was zero.
How did they get the monkey to drink it?
Oh, no, I think he was shot.
Oh.
He was probably shot.
I have another question.
Yeah. I love it.
Although I just forgot it because you told me the monkey was shot and it made me really sad.
Yeah.
I guess I forgot. I'll remember.
Okay. Yeah, just go ahead and interrupt when you remember it.
Interrupting cow.
Yeah. Moo. When Guyanese authorities arrived at Jonestown, the scene was one of...
I remember.
Okay, go ahead.
So, do you think you would have maybe, and this is maybe just interested in your opinion, do you think the governor, or sorry, what was it, Senator?
Yeah.
Do you think by him coming, he was the reason that everybody died? Or do you think that Jones would just continue on these fake suicide, or whatever they call white knights?
White knights. I think Ryan visiting sped up the timeline. I think the writing was on the wall that they were all going to eventually die. They were all going to do this revolutionary suicide one way or the other at some given point. I just think Jones was waiting for a catalyst to make that happen, to launch.
And the people were just hoping like maybe he'd die because he's already sick and ill. And I just wondering if he would just keep up the ruse or...
No, I think they were headed that way. And I think any little act against them would have been that catalyst. This just expedited that timeline, gave him the reason to do it. And especially after he gave the order to sabotage and shoot him at the airstrip. I mean, it was done, you know?
I know. I was just wondering if they never showed up, if the word never got out, would it ever come to a head? Would this ever have happened?
Yeah, no. I think it was going to happen one way or the other. I mean, he was far gone. He was so far gone. Yeah. So when Guyanese authorities arrived at Jonestown, the scene was one of unimaginable horror. Bodies lay scattered across the compound, many still holding hands or lying next to loved ones. The death toll reached 918, including more than 300 children. The images and stories that emerged from Jonestown would become etched in the collective memory of the world, a devastating reminder of the power of manipulation and the extremes of blind loyalty. A Guyanese official on the scene later described the sight. The silence was overwhelming. You could hear the jungle around you, but in the camp there was nothing, just rows of bodies. Some intertwined in final desperate embraces. The heat made the scene even more unbearable, and the air was thick with the metallic scent of death. It was as though the jungle itself had conspired to trap the sound of their final moments. The news of Jonestown spread rapidly across the world, initially with confused and incomplete reports. The magnitude of the massacre stunned everyone from political leaders to the general public. The number of deaths was so high that initial estimates were wildly inaccurate, underreporting the scale of the tragedy. As journalists and officials continued to investigate, the real count, 918 people, including more than 300 children, emerged, making it the largest loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act until the attacks of September 11th. Photographs and footage from Jonestown showing bodies sprawled across the compound and the now infamous vat of cyanide-laced Flavor Aid became an indelible image of newspapers and television broadcasts. The narrative quickly turned from shock to searching for explanations. How could one man persuade hundreds of people, including children, to take their own lives? The term drinking the Kool-Aid soon entered the public lexicon, symbolizing blind, destructive loyalty, even though it was Flavor Aid that was used.
Do you think Kool-Aid stock took a dump that day?
Did it take a dump or get more popular?
I don't know.
Good question.
I don't know. But again, I think it was just Kool-Aid as a term of juice.
It's like saying a Kleenex.
Yeah, or
jacuzzi.
Jacuzzi. Yeah. The U.S. government faced criticism for failing to act sooner, given the multiple warnings from defectors and concerned families. There were congressional hearings to investigate what had gone wrong and how a community of American citizens could come to such a tragic end under the nose of a foreign and domestic authorities. Guyana, too, grappled with its role in allowing Jones to establish such a significant and insular enclave within its borders. The process of recovering and identifying the bodies was grueling and traumatic. U.S. military personnel and forensics experts were dispatched to Guyana to manage the scene. The sheer number of corpses, the tropical heat, and the rapid decomposition of the bodies complicated the recovery mission. Many bodies were initially unidentifiable, leading to distrust for families waiting for news back home. A soldier involved in the recovery operation later described the difficulty. The smell, the sight, it was something none of us were prepared for. We had been told the numbers, but until you stood there and saw it, lines of people lying next to each other, small children clutching at their parents, it didn't seem real. Many of the bodies were returned to the U.S., while others who remained unclaimed were buried in mass graves in Oakland, California. These burial sites became places of mourning and reflection, with memorials erected to honor those who perished not as faceless members of a cult, but as individuals who had once believed in the promise of a better life. The few who survived the massacre faced an entirely different kind of ordeal. They returned to a world that struggled to comprehend what had happened. The survivors were met with a mixture of sympathy, disbelief, and suspicion. Many carried immense guilt for having survived when so many others, including close friends and family members, had not. They had to contend with the trauma of witnessing the massacre and the memories of their years in Jonestown. Odell Rhodes, who had managed to hide during the massacre, later described the emotional aftermath. It's like I died that day too. Every night, I'd hear the cries of the children, the final gasps of people I loved, and Jim's voice telling us this was the only way. You never stop hearing it. Survivors also faced stigma from those who questioned how they could have been part of the People's Temple in the first place. The complexity of Jones's manipulation, combined with the idealism that initially drew so many to the movement, was hard for outsiders to understand. Survivors struggled to explain what had begun as a genuine quest for community and justice had devolved into a nightmare under the influence of a man who wielded an extraordinary psychological hold. Jim Jones's biological son, Stephen, was not present at Jonestown during the massacre. He had been in Georgetown, Guyana, as part of the temple's basketball team. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
They had a basketball team?
Were they any good?
Oh my, I have no idea.
You're not allowed to leave, but my son can go play basketball.
Yeah, well, the temple's basketball team, it wasn't just his son. There had been other basketball players from the church.
Oh, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
A local traveling team.
Wow. He and other team members heard the news in a state of disbelief and horror. Over the years, Stephen has spoken openly about the impact of his father's actions on his life. Unlike many survivors who chose silence, Stephen has tried to use the story to illuminate how belief and manipulation intersected in Jonestown. My father was a man with a vision that started in compassion but became corrupted by his hunger for control. He lost himself, and in doing so, he took hundreds of innocent people with him. I'll spend my life trying to make sense of how someone who can inspire hope also became capable of such horror. Stephen has emphasized that Jonestown should be remembered not just as a place of death, but as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchallenged authority, the power of collective belief, and the human vulnerability to manipulation. The psychological profile of Jim Jones became a topic of intense study in the years following the massacre. Experts have since suggested that he exhibited traits consistent with narcissistic personality disorder, compounded by paranoia and delusions of grandeur, exacerbated by drug abuse. Jones's upbringing, marked by poverty and the intense influence of his mother, likely contributed to his complex character. His early fascination with control and power, seen in childhood acts and early ministry tactics, evolved over the years to something darker and more destructive. Scholars point to Jones's exceptional charisma as a key factor to his ability to amass followers and maintain loyalty. He knew how to appeal to people's deepest desires for belonging, justice, and purpose. His oratory skills and strategic acts of kindness created a persona that was difficult to question. Once members were drawn into the circle, he used fear, guilt, and isolation to prevent dissent and ensure loyalty. Dr. Margaret Singer, a leading psychologist in the study of cults, noted Jim Jones's ability to manipulate was unparalleled. He used techniques that combined psychological reinforcement with emotional exhaustion to create an environment where questioning him felt impossible. People didn't just follow him, they needed him, even as they were terrified of him. The legacy of Jonestown is multifaceted and deeply ingrained in the study of religious movements, social psychology, and the dangers of unchecked power. The tragedy prompted a re-examination of how religious movements are monitored and the balance between religious freedom and public safety. It also brought attention to the tactics used by charismatic leaders to manipulate and control their followers. The U.S. government and religious organizations were forced to address how such a community could exist without intervention. New policies aimed at cult deprogramming emerged, and awareness campaigns were launched to educate the public on the warning signs of manipulative organizations. The tragedy of Jonestown also led to the formation of support groups for former cult members and their families, recognizing the complex trauma associated with such experiences. Jonestown has become a symbol of the perilous intersection between idealism and authoritarianism. The story was taught in...
What was that?
Yeah, exactly. I stumbled across that word.
You're doing great.
Thanks. The story is taught in sociology, psychology, and religious study courses as an example of the profound influence that leaders can have when followers surrendered their critical thinking and autonomy. Memorials dedicated to the victims have been erected in various places, most notably at the Evergreen Cemetery in Oakland, California, where many of the unclaimed bodies were interred. These sites serve as a place for reflection, urging visitors to see beyond the term cult and recognize the human cost of such tragedies. The story of Jonestown is a sobering reminder of the potential consequences when hope is manipulated by a charismatic leader with unchecked power. What began as a mission for social justice and equality devolved into one of the most horrific acts of mass death in modern history. Jonestown underscores the importance of vigilance in the face of authority and the critical need to foster environments where questioning leadership is not just allowed, but encouraged. For the survivors and family of those who perished, the impact of Jonestown is both deeply personal and universally tragic. The lesson it imparts continue to resonate, warning against the seduction of certainty and the dangerous allure of belonging when it comes to the cost of reason and freedom. The legacy of Jonestown lives on as a testament to the power of belief, the vulnerability of the human spirit, and the need for awareness in recognizing manipulation and authoritarian control before it escalates beyond redemption. Well,
Oof.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know what to say about it. It's just...
What are you guys feeling right now?
I'm pissed off about the kids, about Mr. Muggs.
Mm-hmm.
I Googled about Mr. Muggs. He was shot 3 times.
He was shot 3 times?
He was shot 3 times first before Jim Jones was shot, apparently.
Yeah, I bet you Jim probably killed him because it was his pet,
Or whoever killed Jim also killed him.
No, I don't think Jim would have allowed that to happen. I don't know. But
I don't know. It's just,
it
just saddens me that it was forced down the kids' throats, and the kids don't even know what the heck is going on. And just picturing them crying, it tortures my mind. This is going to be something that's going to keep me up at night thinking about it.
Yeah, whenever I watch a movie or I hear a story, I always put myself as close to the scenario as possible, or in it. And I can't even imagine how horrible it would be. But in thinking about people who do unalive themselves, it's not, from my understanding, it's not that they want to die. It's they want the pain to stop. And they've finally reached a point to where they think this is the only solution for that pain to stop. All the pain and stress that those people probably went through living under those conditions is probably what pushed them ultimately to save their kids, they thought, and then finally saving themselves. So I think the people in the end felt they were doing what they were doing was mercy instead of killing. So that kind of helps me wrap my head around it a little bit better, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know.
Mm.
So yeah, final thoughts, ladies?
Don't join a cult.
But also don't be afraid to ask questions.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
You know, in the climate that we're in, society, with politics, and how you question anything and you're deemed the bad guy, I feel as though, like, as a nation, we're headed down this path. And I think it's so fitting we did this during this time.
Yeah.
You know? And mind you, I think the three of us all agreed never to talk about politics, you know?
Yes.
But I'll never say what I feel about them on the show. But when you look at the landscape right now, and it doesn't matter what side you're on, all they're asking for is complete obedience. That is not.
This is just a microcosm of the macrocosm. Yeah. And I was worried that you were going to ask me what my thoughts were on this, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Is this might be a magnification glass on something, but I agree with you. We are living in a world where that. Yeah, you said it better than I can. So thank you.
Yeah, no. So I just hope that our free thinking ways come back to us, and we all start questioning not just what we see as the opposition, but also the people that we feel are leading us.
Yeah.
We should question everything.
Everything.
And come up with our own.
It doesn't have to be political. It could be religious.
Absolutely.
It could be at work. It could be in your own family.
Yes.
You know?
100%. Yeah. This far.
And I'm not saying that to divide people, but think about where your information is coming from and how you think. Is it your thought or is it somebody else's thought?
Right. And when you do react to the opposition, we should start reacting out of a place of grace and understanding, opposed to defiance and hatred.
And that reaction should be a self-reflection of what you have on the inside. Exactly. Where is that coming from? It's not the other person. That other person might have sparked something in you, but what can you do about it? Where does that stem from?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very true. The way you react to a situation is what you hold inside of you.
It says more about you than it does the other person.
Exactly. So just remember, we love you guys.
We do.
Thank you for joining us.
Tomorrow's the anniversary, so send some prayers up for whatever you believe in.
Yeah. So
be mindful.
Yeah, very mindful. And we're going to play out a few minutes of the death tape. So if you guys want a little clip of what was going on, sit tight.
Should we maybe share the link where you can, if you want to listen to more of or any of, he documented and recorded thousands of hours of audio. We can share that on the site, or we can shout it out here.
Yeah, we could do both. So I think it was San Diego State University compiled all the recordings that the FBI recovered. There's stuff from sermons from Indianapolis from the early days to California, all the way to Guyana, all the craziness. So that's just, what is it? Jonestown.
.sdsu.edu.
.edu. Yeah, so you guys can go there, or you guys can go to our website, fringebeyondlimits.com, and under the show tab, we'll have the link there as well.
Yep.
So, all right, guys. This has been a fucking train wreck.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Frank.
I'm Bree.
And this is Lynette.
And you've been listening to Fringe
Beyond
the Limits.
I very much like live my next to be a good life. In spite of all of my pride, a handful of our grouping with their lies have made our life impossible. We're ready to test ourselves from what's happened here. Not only are in the compounds of schools, not only are there those who have left the canoe the betrayal of the country. Some have stolen bullets from others and to speak right now to kill them. because they failed their children. And we're sitting there waiting on a battlefield. I don't think that's what we want to do with that baby. I don't think that's what we have in mind to do with that baby. But instead, by the greatest prophet and down in the wall, a man lays with my life through, I lay my head down. So, to sit here and wait for the catastrophe that's going to happen on an airplane, it's going to be a catastrophe. It almost happened here. Almost happened. The congressman is going to close here. But you can't see people's children. You can't take out the people's children without expecting a violent reaction. And that's not unfamiliar to us either. So we're going to be very Christian. If we want communists, the world can themselves with violence, and the violence will go with that force. If we can't live in peace, let us die in peace. And then perfect road, and then first, Christine Malcolm said, I don't know how you glad that this morning, like what? Because if it only worked one day, it would work why. What's going to happen here in a matter of a few minutes is that one of the people on that plane is going to shoot the pilot. I know that. I didn't plan it, but I know it's going to happen. They're going to shoot that pilot, and down comes that plane into the jungle. And then I better not have any red children left when it's over. Cocoa Press is in there, and it's very much as plain as I know how to float. I've never lied to her. She never have lied to you. I know that's what's going to happen. That's what we can do. And we will do it. We'll do it. What's going to be so bewildered with many cycles on my brain from all this whole foolishness. It was just too much for me to put together, but I now know what he was telling me, and it'll happen. If the plane gets in the air, anyway. So, my opinion is that we be kind to children and be kind to seniors and take the person like you could take an infant baby and step over quietly because we are not committing suicide. It's a revolutionary act. You can't go back. We won't lose a lawyer. And now they're going to become more live. It's more congressmen. There is no way we can survive. Have any dissenting opinion? Please speak. Yes. You can have an opportunity, but if there's children that are left, we're going to have a liquid. There's a neighbor flies, and you can strike in the people